So for anybody who came for the wine and beer, I have a prize, so you better pay attention. Thanks for that, Michael. I always loved that kind of futuristic look, and he does actually have a crystal ball in the office. He was on it all day today. But one of the things that I think, Michael talks a lot about revolution in terms of productivity, and that's exactly what revolution is. So the Industrial Revolution saw a massive ramp up in human productivity. And I believe that the revolution we're going through now is due to the internet. When I left college a little while ago, I finished my degree, and the internet for me helped me research papers when I went on to do my master's. Okay, it was a great tool to access information. It meant I didn't have to get onto a bus and go into town and go into Trinity College and go into a library, etc. So that itself had a massive productivity gain for me. Step forward a couple of years and look at the internet now. We're completely reliant on it. There's not one of us in here that can say we're not reliant on the internet. Whether that's in work, doing a teleconference call over Skype, or whether that's at home watching Netflix. Even how we interact with our friends nowadays is reliant on the internet. Okay? And businesses are starting to see this and start to think about, well, how can we use the internet in even more interesting ways to gain productivity, to drive costs down, to transform our business. Similar to what happened when the internet came around in the early days. Businesses transformed. Book companies became Amazon. Hoovered up. Okay, so this was a transformation. This was the internet revolution. And we're about to go on the next phase in that internet revolution, and we all need to be ready for it. And I guess you guys are in a really interesting stage now where you're thinking about what should I study to prepare myself for the next wave, which I'll bring you through. The interesting thing actually is that this was predicted. I think this is a wonderful statement. I love it actually. It says an awful lot. You can read an awful lot into this. And I'm going to give a prize to the person who can get nearest to the year that that statement was made. Just shout it out. Go on, give it a guess. Give it a go.
42.
Someone else.
1820.
Oh crap, now I'm going to have to do maths.
1896.
1955.
So 1896 is actually, I think, the closest, and correct me if I'm wrong because I'm not really good at mental arithmetic anymore.
The 1980s.
So Nikola Tesla predicted this in 1926. So there you go. But look at what Tesla said, okay? He talked about the telephone. Now remember what the telephone was like in those days, okay? Telephone exchanges was a building with people in it plugging wires into stuff. Every town, every person you read. He predicted the iPhone. He predicted the smartphone. He also, in my view, predicted IoT. I'm not really sure when he said the whole earth, whether he meant all of humans or whether he meant all of things on the planet. But I'm going to say he meant all of the things on the planet. So that's an incredible statement, I think. And that's the wave that we're going through now. So, oh yeah, the internet improved my productivity in terms of being a researcher. But think about the things that are connected to the internet right now. Okay, it's everything. Michael talked about it a little bit. Okay, it's everything. Everything is becoming connected to the internet. There's all sorts of numbers about how many millions of light bulbs will be connected to the internet. Our fridges, our cars. There's a reason for this. But if we look at the figures, in 2012 we estimate that there was about 8.7 billion things connected to the internet. Does anybody have any idea how many of those were traditional things like desktops, tablets, smartphones? Maybe a billion. So the rest were other things. That was in 2012. And we reckon we'll be at 20 billion by 2020. A couple of interesting things happened around the 2012 timeframe actually. That was the first time the number of connected devices went beyond the number of humans on the planet, which was an interesting milestone. One other thing happened in 2012, can anyone tell me? Okay, you're not IT folk. but something to do with IP addresses. We ran out of IP addresses. Okay, we ran out of them. IPv6 came around a little bit before that, but in 2012 we ran out of IP4. We sell them and we have ownership of them, but there's actually no free ones left. And the really interesting point is that even with all of that, we're really only at the tip of the iceberg. Okay? So it's a fascinating concept that as much as we're reliant on the internet, one day everything will be reliant on the internet. And just to show that this is real, we are certainly well along the way in terms of IoT, Internet of Things. Michael talked about the future, but in 2014, this was the revenue that industry spent on IoT projects. So this makes it real. That means there's business value in this. About $2.3 trillion. And again, the estimate from IDC is that in 2018, that will double. Okay, that's a lot of money. In fact, it's the biggest growth in human history. Okay? So this is the biggest transformation wave that we will go through. And it's across vertical. Okay, we have big verticals there like manufacturing, transportation. So in manufacturing, we're talking about, conveyor belts, lifts, etc., etc. In transportation, we're talking about smart bus networks, cars, etc. But it's across the board. All sorts of verticals IoT will apply to. And money, real money, is being spent on projects today. So I could talk for the rest of the day about why businesses are doing this. So why are they spending this amount of money to connect their things to the internet? But instead of talk about it, I'm going to just show you a video. This is a real video. You'll all relate to it. And it's a real project that we worked on last year.
Carrying more than 1 billion passengers every year, the iconic London Underground is the world's first underground railway. I'm Stu Pears, Managing Director at Talent Technology. We wanted to help rail organisations like London Underground modernise the systems that monitor its critical assets. Everything from escalators and lifts and HVAC control systems to CCTV and communication networks. We teamed up with CGI and Microsoft. This collaboration includes taking advantage of the Microsoft Azure Intelligent Systems Service. Meaningful data from sensors and intelligent edge devices on everything from temperature, vibration and humidity to fault warnings and system alerts are available securely in the cloud. Many manual monitoring processes can now be streamlined. Disconnected systems can be securely integrated and automated. Most importantly, equipment degradation can be spotted in real time based on live data. And with new insights from data, London Underground can measure asset performance over time. When one system can connect thousands of devices and data streams across a rail network serving millions of people, that's the Internet of Things, and it's here right now. That's why we chose Microsoft.
So I didn't study IT from a degree. I actually studied mechanical engineering, so I love that video. And I bring it out everywhere I go. So if you've seen it before, I apologize. But it really does show the real business value that's there around IoT. So think about some of the messages in there: predictive maintenance, knowing when things are going to fail, fixing them before they fail. If you've ever been on the London Underground and you've been at the mercy of an escalator that's broken down, you'll know what I'm talking about. That's a massive impact, negative impact on the business. Okay? So it's a really good example of the value that can be derived from Internet of Things and is being derived right now. So what does that mean for IoT, for IT? Because it presents some challenges. First of all, we've all heard about big data. Big data has been called a mega trend for a long time, but actually big data is becoming humongous. And we're having a real challenge with data, okay? So we can see there, for example, I can't see it because this is on the wrong angle. And we can see there around about this year, we've got about 7 zettabytes, which are 1 trillion gigabytes of data being stored. By 2020, that will be over 40, okay? It's a lot of data, okay? Put it in context, by 2020, we'll be storing 5 times the amount of data that we store now. So just think about it, right? We all think we're connected to the internet all the time. Think of all of that data and multiply it by 5. That's where we'll be in only 5 years' time. And the scary piece is that 90% of the data that we have now was created in the last 2 years. So there are all sorts of wonderful statistics, but the reality is it's big, it's humongous, and it's growing at an exponential rate. And this presents massive challenges. The other big trend that's happening right now is that cloud computing is redefining IT. And we see this across the board. We see companies that are born in the cloud, companies that have never seen a server, don't understand what it is. Everything is cloud, whether it's Office 365, whether it's deploying something into Azure, whether it's using Salesforce for CRM. Whatever the tools are, they're cloud-based tools. Of course, there are a lot of companies who haven't migrated to the cloud, but they will over time, or they'll die. As Michael showed earlier on, businesses don't survive if they don't keep up with the trends. So cloud computing is completely disrupting the way we think about IT. And I think that's a really important thing for you to consider if you're considering a career in IT. So interesting statistics there. So 90% of all IoT data will be hosted on cloud platforms. That kind of makes sense, because if we think about it, that humongous data that I talked about, companies aren't going to pay for the storage to store it, never mind the compute power that's required to actually do some analysis on it. Because it's not just about storing data, we want to actually gain some insight. Think back to the London Underground example. But how do we do that in the confines of the servers that we have in our own buildings? So cloud is transforming that. So analytics and big data, or humongous data as I like to call it, is key. And back to my point about needing to do something with the data, more and more we're using the data not to just present graphs or present reports back to people, but to actually gain actionable insights, to do something with the data. London Underground talked about, a service engineer being dispatched automatically because the conveyor belt is overheating or something like that. In other words, being able to predict what's going to happen, fix something before it breaks. It's a lot less costly. Okay? So machine learning, advanced analytics, when we think about the amount of data that we're going to be storing into the future, machine learning and data analytics is going to be a big, big part of the IT department. And it's not just about in the workplace, it's also in our personal lives. So if I go back to my example as a research student studying my master's, I was consuming a lot of information. I was going to the web, I was finding it, and I was getting it, but there was a limited amount of information on the web in those days. Nowadays, there's too much of it. I have this challenge in my job right now where there's so much information I need to consume, and then I need to do things with that information. I need to create incredible presentations like this. That was a joke. But I need to do something. I need to action that information. But I need to siphon through an awful lot of information to get there. So wouldn't it be amazing if I had a personal assistant that could do that for me? And Michael showed some interesting stuff that's coming down the line, but some of that is right here, right now. So with Windows 10, we have a feature called Cortana. And that's what Cortana is. Cortana is a digital assistant that will run with Windows 10 and will actually analyze everything that's going on in the internet. Everything. It will consume the entire internet. It will ask you what your interests are. It will monitor your activities. And it will behave like an assistant. It will prompt you. For example, it's always telling me I've missed a gym workout and suggesting, for example, that she put a reminder in my calendar or an appointment in my calendar for a workout. That's a simple example. It also reminds me that I need to leave because it's going to take me a certain amount of time to get home based on traffic conditions. So this is a great example. Cortana is a fantastic example of cloud computing, machine learning, and big data, humongous data analytics. I have a short video to demonstrate this. It's a little bit scary, I think. Okay, but have a look. So I think it's a little bit scary when we think about how much machines can know about us. And that's just me, maybe because I'm old. But the next generation won't care. The next generation want to use this data. They want to use their data to help them, to support them. Again, think about the transformation that we're going through. Okay? People of the future will need digital personal assistants to help them consume the relevant information, help them action that information and get the right things done. Okay? So a lot of what Michael showed you earlier on, Cortana feeds into that. And going back to Tesla's argument about the world being a brain, that's what this is, right? Our brain, the human brain, is a fantastic machine. But when it comes to processing data, it lets us down. We can only process so much data at a time. We can only make decisions on a certain amount of data. When we think about the data that we're about to start storing and processing, we need machines to help us do that. So personally, I need Cortana. So what's the opportunity for you? If you're thinking about IT, there are tons of disciplines. There are the traditional disciplines like hardware, infrastructure, programming, and all of those things are great things. But these are the things of the future, in my opinion. Cloud computing. Cloud, to a lot of us that have been in the game for a while, might sound like an old term, but we're only at the beginning. One day every business will run every piece of their infrastructure in cloud technologies. Cloud will become like the ESB. At one stage in our history, people had to generate their own electricity. And data science, that machine learning, okay, understanding data, analyzing data, big data analytics, a key area. And of course, all of this is connected by the internet. Internet is key to all of this. So don't forget about web. Web is not an old technology. Web will continue. If you'd like to learn more, there's a couple of links. Microsoft.com, Cloud, Big Data, and Research is a great site to go and see some of the detail that Michael talked about. Have a look at HoloLens. Have a look at what we're doing around holographic computing. If you've ever watched Star Trek, you'll know about the holodeck. We're one step closer to the holodeck. Thanks.